Well, libraries are really, really important to the city. We've got two large libraries in the centre of town, Hove Library and Jubilee Library. Jubilee Library is a flagship library. It's the second most used library in the entire country, which is quite an unbelievable statistic. I go there regularly with my children at the weekends, and it's an amazing place to go. You have children that go there, you have older people who go there to spend time, you have people who go there because it's a warm space to go. And so we want to protect that, and we are protecting the Jubilee Library. What the potential saving is about is, can we change the opening hours slightly on one of the days? This is not shutting the library on one whole day. It's about looking at when could you reduce the hours a little bit, and that would create a small saving. And obviously we know in the context of the budget that despite increases in funding from national government, we do have to make efficiency savings. And then on community libraries, what will happen is there will be a consultation with staff and with the public to determine what community libraries need to remain and stay open, and how we can manage those community libraries. But there's no final decisions made on that yet. This is a resourcing decision from a budget, but we absolutely agree that libraries are massively important to the city. Youth-led grants has been a really good programme that has had uptake, and what that's about is getting young people involved in decision making and how grants are used. We are reducing that this year, so it was only £40,000, and we are taking that as a saving this year. What I would say is we have already discussed with youth groups, but also community groups, that we want to embed more youth participation into the other decision making the council makes. It's worth remembering that hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions per year of the council goes to community groups for commission services, but also grants. And actually what it's about is embedding the youth voice in a lot more of that decision-making process. And so that's what we intend to take forward, and we want to work closely with the sector and with young people to embed that. It's a question I get a lot in my ward and when I speak to residents: how come council tax has to go up, and how come you still have to look to make savings? In the most part, we're not cutting services, we're making savings to the way we provide those services. The simple answer to the question is, what's happened over the last 14 years in the previous government is the previous government underfunded local government. It made real terms cuts to local government at the same time that the pressures on services like adult social care, children's social care and homelessness have been increasing. And so this year from government, we actually got a better settlement. We got a real terms increase in our settlement from government. Our general fund is going up by £18 million from £246 million pounds last year. So our funding is going up. However, the pressures that we face on homelessness, on adult social care and children's social care continue to rise. Now the government are separately doing lots of things to try and solve the housing crisis. And so things will start to improve in years to come, but we're playing catch up on 14 years of the previous government underfunding local government. Well, council tax supports revenue funding, and revenue funding is essentially the provision of services, the employment of staff to provide services. Separate to that is capital funding and capital investment, and much of our big project infrastructure, whether it's Madeira Terraces, building a new King Alfred Centre, or Valley Gardens 3, is funded by capital, some of which comes from government in separate grants that can only be used for those types of projects. By the way, Valley Gardens 3, I know people are worried about particularly the roundabout, but actually I'm a big believer that the previous stages of Valley Gardens have been pretty successful. Those areas of the centre of Brighton look much, much better than they did before, and I'm confident that when Valley Gardens 3 is complete, that area of town is going to look much, much better. And I'm even confident that some of the prominent sceptics of that scheme will end up saying, yeah, it does look a lot better. So it is a good use of money. It's a good use of the grants that we've got from government to invest in the look and feel of the city. But there's a key difference between revenue funding that you get from tax and capital funding that comes often from grant or from borrowing. So for successive years, this council, including under previous administrations, have had to implement large savings packages because the previous government underfunded local government. When you introduce big savings packages, they're not easy to deliver. Some things are more straightforward. If you simply stop a service overnight, well, that's somewhat more easy to deliver that saving. Others are more complicated. They're about changing the way services are provided, or they're about changing demand for services. And so it's not guaranteed that you can deliver them overnight once passing the budget. What we've seen over the last couple of years is, yes, as you get through the financial year, there are areas that may be overspending, and then sometimes you have to put in emergency controls. We don't want that to be the way that the council operate, but one of the ways that we will get to that is having longer term settlements from government, which is what the government have indicated, and indeed increased funding, which is what we've seen this year for the first time in many years. And so that will start to improve. However, this administration has a good financial record. When we came in May 2023, we inherited a position where the previous administration had overspent by £3.5 million. In our first year in office, we underspent the budget and we released funding for things like the Fairness Fund, but also the look and feel of the city. And so we take our responsibilities at managing the council finances really, really seriously. We did that last year and we'll be doing it again next year. So I want to be very clear with residents, because they often ask me this: what's the impact of the I360? The impact of the I360 is in the budget papers and it's clear for everyone to see. It is £2.2 million per year in our revenue budgets that we should have, that should have been paid back by the I360, that we now don't have. That 2.2 million is the Green Party tax in this city. That's their legacy to the city, and every year going forward for 14 years, 2.2 million of our budget is missing because of the Green Party decision on the I360. Now that has an impact. It goes into the general fund, and so it's not allocated to one specific thing, but it goes into the general fund. And so for those unhappy with council tax increase or services seeing savings, 2.2 million of that is the legacy of the Green Party decision on that. Now, what could it be spent on? It could be spent on all sorts of things. You could build new play areas, you could repair more potholes, you could provide more mental health counselling. There's all sorts of things that money could be used for, and it was a very, very poor decision, and the Green Party still haven't apologised for it. Maybe in today's budget debate they may come out and say we're sorry and we got our hands up on the decision that we got very wrong.